Alright guys, such comic again. I hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far. Ghosty reveals a major drama that was unfolding behind the scenes that nearly prevented him getting a good CDL opportunity over the last couple of years after debuting with OpTic Texas, then leaving that team and trying to get another opportunity, eventually ending up on Thieves. The rest since then is history, but during that whole period, apparently there was a big drama behind the scenes with a certain organisation that very nearly screwed him over. Other discussion as well, certainly with regard to Nadeshot. Very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I greatly appreciate it. Lots to get into. Just quickly to start here, Drazah only did one tweet for a chal last night, which is a new low for a record, but they played a cardboard chal. It was him, Kremp and TJ, so some usual suspects. We think that TJ, well, we actually don't really know where TJ is going to end up right now. We're pretty sure Kremp is going to end up on the Minnesota Rocker team with Estriel, Kremp, Gwyn and Skies. That was a rumour. As of recording, not yet confirmed, but we think that Kremp probably will end up there. TJ is more difficult to say because, of course, he spent some time on the Ravens last year, but Ravens, to our understanding, are probably going to disintegrate and get replaced by Space Station Gaming. That's the big talk at the moment, but yeah, we'll see how that one goes because, look, Carolina Royal Ravens, Space Station Gaming, if Space Station come in, they are going to want to relocate that franchise to Salt Lake City, right? And unfortunately, for the last couple of times we have seen these acquisitions happen, those teams, just because of the league, I don't know, the league has some sort of weird deadlines that need to be hit. Don't really know why. But Falcons didn't want to be in Vegas. They've now moved to Riyadh. Gentlemates didn't want to be Los Angeles Gorillas Gentlemates, whatever. Like, you know what I'm saying? They didn't want to be that. They wanted to be in Paris. Presumably that's still going to happen at some point soon enough anyway. So, you know, it just took a whole year for it to happen. But if I'm Space Station, do I want to spend a year being the Carolina Space Stations? Just terrible, right? So, yeah, I don't know. We'll see about that one, but presumably there's some news on that coming around the corner. I'm not sure exactly what's happening on this yet, but Kaysun did reveal the other day that he's planning to run a fair few tournaments in the off-season to continue. Of course, you know, with all sorts going on with Black Ops 7, the beta coming out in a couple of days' time. We'll talk about that revealed trailer tomorrow morning. That maybe there's some tourneys coming up in October, early November, before the game drops. That would be rather nice to see. But a couple of clips I wanted to share here from Nadeshot. He's obviously relevant to this discussion because Ghosty is going to talk on some of his drama in a second. And of course, Ghosty ended up after this drama that we're going to discuss on Nadeshot's organisation, the LA Thieves. And it all went rather well for Ghosty over the last couple of seasons. Unfortunately, has now come to an end on that front because the team didn't deliver this year at the World Cup or the World Championship. And therefore, Ghosty has been moved on from the roster. But Nadeshot talks a few things about his time playing with Scump, his time playing with Formal. Thought it was pretty interesting to hear him talk back on this because, you know, remember these days, of course, very fondly. But it's interesting to think about how young Nade and Scump were back then, how much they'd kind of blown up, how big their personalities were becoming in the COD scene, how he felt like that was somewhat challenging to him and to both of them, really, to make that work on the team and deliver success, but also with all the things that were happening outside of the game as well. Then, of course, he played with Formal at the start of the Advanced Warfare season before he then took his hiatus, from which he never returned. So a couple of interesting clips here, then we'll get into this Ghosty stuff.
So I got to give Seth my favorite teammate just from a talent perspective because he carried me to the finish line. Like, he was dragging me to the finish line for a lot of championships. But from a personality standpoint, because me and Seth, when we played together, we were very young. And I think both of us had egos in a way where we were both really popular at the time.
Back then, though.
Yeah, and nobody was making money back then. So not only were we were basically playing together, but against each other when we were playing on the same team, because we were both trying to make the most money, be the most popular. And I feel like young men, they don't have very good control over their emotions, their pride, their egos. So that made it a little harder for us to click at that moment in time. So my favorite teammate, just from a vibe perspective, was probably Formal, because he didn't really give a fuck about anything else other than winning.
But winning.
When you get a good, deep belly laugh out of Formal, you feel like you just cured cancer, or you did something that really contributed to society that you always dreamed about doing your entire life. So I would say Formal and Scump were my favorite two teammates, both for different reasons. And obviously Embos give you a ton of laughs. Mark was, I hung out with Mark Embos offline the most.
You think you were getting carried like that? I feel like COD's different now. Like, there's not necessarily that need for an OBJ player like how it used to be. But I think, like, you, like, looking back at it, and in my personal opinion, I think that you were one of the best at what you did.
Oh my God, I'm
all glaze. I don't care, dude. I don't care, dude.
I love you. Bro. Look, man, do I think that at the time with the teams that we were playing against, I don't think one individual could be absolute shit and be carried to a championship. I feel like I contributed. You know, I kind of have, you know, when I quit, I was off this shit for like 7 years. And I actually think just the community sentiment towards what I did for the team, like the really nitty gritty fans on the subreddits, they made it seem like I was fucking awful. And for a while, I started to believe them, but I contributed. You know, Search and Destroy was always my best game mode. And I feel like a lot of pros back in the day, you were either really good at respawn or you were really good at search. There weren't a lot of players that were in between and were super well-rounded. So I feel like that there were certain moments in certain games, like Ghost, I think was my best game with Blitz and Search and Destroy. And I would have some good respawn games, but then I wasn't consistent enough. But I don't think I was carried that hard. But yeah, Seth was definitely, when you have like the best player in the game on your team, it makes things a little easier.
So Dylan Attach at it again with an episode of the Stay Attached podcast. This was actually one with Sender. I've not got the chance to watch this one yet, but I just thought it was funny because I tuned into this episode and the first thing I saw is Sender smashing this massive water bottle, and I was like, yeah, that's my goat right there. Because I've got a pretty similar water bottle that I'm using most of the time as well. So respect that from Sender, and yeah, looking forward to giving this one a listen. But I wanted to show another clip from the one he did with Ghosty a few days ago, where they were talking about some drama that happens after the OpTic season. So Ghosty had a really interesting rise to the CDL. He was semi-notable Challengers player for a little bit. Then he teamed with Doug, right? So he ended up on Doug's team. He came to like live with Doug a bit. I don't know. He definitely had a bit of a ride on his jet ski. I mean that literally, not as some sort of weird euphemism. But Ghosty then turned up to Boston's home events. He played the Challengers event there. He dropped like a 1.3 in the freezing cold and became a rather notable player. And all of a sudden, he was on the radar, right? Because people were looking at the Challenger stats and saying, damn, this damn Ghosty guy just dropped to 1.3 this tournament. Like, what's going on? Is this guy the truth? And he was considered to be pretty much the top prospect from Challengers at that time. Then when some drama happened with OpTic, they decided for the first time in a very long time that they were going to take the chance on a rookie. Ghosty came in. There was some serious pressure on him that season, of course. There always is playing for OpTic. And he was effectively relied upon to be the in-game leader, right? Like, he was stepping into that leadership role. Big challenge for somebody like him to fill, but he did a great job. And I think OpTic fans still look fondly on the time that Ghosty came in and helped actually deliver a respectable season from OpTic during that 2023 year when they made a couple of grand finals. And yeah, as the season ended, they dropped him for Kenny, and the rest is history since then. But Ghosty's time on OpTic was still considered in pretty high regard, and understandably the OpTic fans, I think, still have a pretty soft spot for at least him coming in and doing a solid job for OpTic a couple of years ago. He ends up on Thieves, now we think he's going to the Gentamates, but how did this all transpire? Because Ghosty describes how, after getting dropped by OpTic, he had a couple of conversations with other teams, and yes, he ended up on Thieves, but there was some other organisation that nearly happened, but nearly tried to screw him over.
So after that MW2 champs, you guys lost to Seattle. I know there's the famous SIB 1v3. That definitely stung.
Outrageous.
The off season after that, like, you're just on OpTic, you're trying to figure it out. You end up landing on LAT. How did that rebuild go in? Like, did you have a big say in like the players that
hell no.
you wanted to pick up?
No.
Really?
I just was trying to join the team. I kind of like I was like what's the word that I'm looking for? I was bamboozled. I was bamboozled by another organization waiting for them. And then basically a bunch of teams have already like formed and contracts were sent out.
Yeah.
So I was kind of just trying to find like the best landing spot possible that was available. Because a lot of the options weren't there anymore compared to like 2-3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
When I wasn't talking to said org. That bamboozled me.
Yeah. No way. No way. Who did it, bro? Who did it?
No. When I'm retired.
When I'm retired? I feel like I know who it is, but I don't know for sure.
You probably do.
I think I know who it is, but I don't know for sure.
They bamboozled me.
Yeah, they kind of like
they bamboozled me.
They messed with you a little bit, and then you're like, oh, now you have to scramble, you have to rush to figure out like, oh shit, now I gotta like get on a team. Because if LAT falls through, then it's like, where do I go after that?
Exactly.
Yeah, you don't want to fall out. Once you get to start getting to like the orgs in like the lower half of the league that don't pay as much, they don't give you like the resources if they don't have a facility, and like you're playing spread out across the country. You have to get on Discord every day to try to watch VOD and talk. Like that's an absolute nightmare. So you do not want to experience that.
No, 100%. Like there's a lot more that goes into like just playing under like a really good organization beyond just like the name, fan base, all that fun stuff. The facilities, the staff, all that is just, it's all there for you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So which organization do we think that he is referring to here? Of course, it's not Thieves, because that's where he ended up in the end. So there was some other team. So, okay, it's not Thieves, not OpTic, obviously, because he was off that team. It's, so which other org? Now, Thieves, that season, they were having the rebuild year, right? So they were dropping down in terms of salaries because they simply couldn't afford it. So, yeah, Ghosty probably got paid something decent, respectable on LA Thieves that season, but it's certainly not some of the crazy salaries that maybe they've bumped up to again today, or anything like what the Falcons are paying. So these are the rosters, and it's kind of remarkable to look through these. Don't you feel like it feels like a long time ago? I mean, it's only 2024, but like so much has changed here, right? FaZe are now FaZe Vegas. New York Subliners are gone, it's now Cloud9. Rocker are kind of gone, it's now G2. Ravens are about to go. Gorillas are gone. Legion are very long gone, right? Like it was Falcons are now, they've even moved themselves. Toronto are changing. It was the Seattle Surge at the time. I mean, Abuzah, Arcetes, Illy, and Huke. That doesn't that feel like a long time ago. So anyway, those are the teams going into the 2024 season. Some players signed for new, some players were returning at the time, but it makes sense that Ghosty was talking to other people because I don't think Thieves were offering any crazy money that season, and understandably Ghosty would be thinking, okay, his stock was pretty high, right? Like he'd just come off OpTic, they'd done well, they'd made a couple of grand finals, Ghosty was clearly a key piece of that, and he was going to get a solid opportunity and a solid offer somewhere. Now, it was probably never going to be FaZe, right? I mean, look, who knows? The reason why Ghosty doesn't want to say who it was is just because he doesn't want to burn a bridge, right? He doesn't want to burn a bridge with an organization that he might potentially... You know, I mean, there's a couple of reasons for it, right? I think it's smart for Ghosty not to say until he retires, as he says, because if he just blurts it out and says which org it was, then that org is probably not going to want to do business with him in the future, potentially, and also other orgs, other players like, oh, you know, he's snitching, right? So Ghosty's why is not to say who it is, even though there might be some rumors about it, but I think he would say it if it was an org that, like, didn't exist anymore, to some extent. Like, if it was Paris, obviously it's not Paris, but, like, if it was Paris that were offering him money, but then were kind of stringing him along and screwing him over, and, you know, as he said, he got bamboozled because presumably they were offering him a certain amount of money, but then that never really happened in the end. So yeah, then he ended up on Thieves, which worked out well for him. Now, what's interesting about this, the only rumor that I can remember seeing about Ghosty at the time that season was about Boston. So well, let's just have a quick look at it. Jake Hale says, multiple sources have confirmed to me that LA Thieves are targeting a roster of Ghosty, Cammy, Afro, and JoeDeceives. That was their initial plan, July the 21st, 2023. Now, there was this report from the rotation in early July that year with Ghosty turning down an offer from Boston. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm actually not sure which org this is, but I just tried to remember and think back at this. Maybe you guys have a better guess than I. But, like, he was linked to Boston for a time, and then there was this rumor that he'd actually turned down the Boston offer and that he was going to go to Thieves instead. And eventually that's, of course, what happens, and they were targeting Ghosty and they made it work. So, you know, I don't know. Maybe Boston they obviously had Snoopy. They brought in Priester and Slasher that year. Maybe they wanted to sign Ghosty and, you know, maybe they had some money for him, but they were like, oh, well, you know, which AR do we sign? And then Ghosty maybe didn't get the money that he wanted from Boston. I mean, it was kind of typical, right? The rumor around that at the time was that Ghosty had been offered some money, but he basically said, no, I think I can do better. And look, who knows? Maybe another organization or Boston came along with a bigger bag, but then the bag actually was never real in the first place. So tweet your thoughts on that in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're new. Take care, and I'll see you next time.